For decades, the world sent factories to China. Now, many of them are moving somewhere much closer to America. Why is Mexico suddenly becoming one of the world's most important economies again? China was the world's factory floor. From smartphones to sneakers, the global economy relied on Chinese manufacturing to keep prices low and shelves stocked. But in recent years, cracks in that model have started to show. Trade tensions between the United States and China have escalated. Supply chains were thrown into chaos by the pandemic, and geopolitical risks have become impossible to ignore. As companies look for alternatives, one country is quickly emerging as a new manufacturing hub: Mexico. With a nearly 2,000-mile border with the United States, Mexico offers something China never could: proximity. But there's more to the story than just geography. Mexico's rise is a case study in how globalization itself is changing, and it could reshape the global economy in ways we're only beginning to understand. For decades, globalization was about one thing: cost. Companies set up factories wherever labor was cheapest, and for a long time, that meant China. The country offered an almost unbeatable combination of low wages, a massive workforce, and a government eager to support manufacturing. By 2001, when China joined the World Trade Organization, Chinese factories were producing everything from iPhones to furniture. By the mid-2010s, China's manufacturing output had reached nearly 30% of the global total. But this success was built on certain assumptions: that trade with China would remain politically uncontroversial, that supply chains would always function smoothly, and that labor costs in China would stay low. These assumptions started to fall apart. The U.S.-China trade war in 2018 imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars of goods, suddenly making Chinese manufacturing more expensive. Companies like Apple and Nike began to question their dependence on a single country. Then, the COVID-19 pandemic exposed just how fragile long global supply chains could be. When factories in coastal China shut down, shipments of everything from electronics to medical supplies ground to a halt. Meanwhile, wages in China have been quietly rising for years. In 2001, average manufacturing wages in China were less than $1 an hour. By 2021, they had risen to over $6 an hour, still low by Western standards, but significantly higher than in Mexico, where the average manufacturing wage was just $3.95 per hour. All of this made companies look for alternatives. And that's where Mexico's unique advantages started to shine. Its proximity to the United States, the world's largest consumer market, meant goods could be transported quickly and cheaply. A truck leaving a factory in Monterrey can reach Dallas in less than 24 hours, compared to weeks for a container ship traveling from Shanghai. For industries like automotive manufacturing, where supply chain delays can shut down entire production lines, this is a game changer. But proximity alone isn't enough to turn a country into a manufacturing powerhouse. Mexico has another critical advantage: trade agreements. The United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, created a highly integrated trade zone that helped Mexico position itself as an indispensable link in North American supply chains. In 2022, trade among the USMCA countries reached $1.5 trillion, with Mexico accounting for a significant share. Here's how it works. Take the automotive industry, one of Mexico's most important sectors. Car parts made in Mexican factories, like engine components or transmissions, are shipped north to the United States for final assembly. In fact, about 90% of Mexican automotive exports go to the U.S. The industry alone employs over 900,000 workers in Mexico and is worth $78 billion annually. And it's not just cars. Electronics, medical devices, and aerospace components are also booming. For example, Tijuana has emerged as a hub for medical device manufacturing, with over 70 companies producing goods like pacemakers and surgical instruments for export. Yet, even as Mexico's manufacturing sector grows, challenges remain. Crime and corruption are still significant hurdles. Cartel violence disrupts supply chains, especially in regions near the U.S. border. In 2022 alone, nearly 30,000 people were killed in Mexico, a stark contrast to the relative stability of China's manufacturing hubs. Infrastructure is another issue. While cities like Monterrey and Guadalajara boast modern industrial parks, other parts of the country lack the roads, ports, and reliable electricity needed to attract major investments. Even so, foreign companies are betting big on Mexico. In 2022, foreign direct investment in Mexico surged to $35 billion, with much of it flowing into manufacturing. Asian companies, including Chinese firms like Hisense and BYD, have also set up operations in Mexico to avoid U.S. tariffs. The trend is clear. Global supply chains are reorganizing, and Mexico is becoming a key player. The shift toward Mexico isn't just about economics. It's about resilience. For years, companies assumed that global trade was stable, but recent disruptions have forced them to reconsider. The COVID-19 pandemic was a wake-up call. Hospitals in the U.S. ran out of masks and ventilators because supply chains from China had broken down. Companies began to realize that being closer to customers wasn't just convenient, it was essential for survival. Then there's geopolitics. The U.S.-China relationship has deteriorated rapidly over the past decade, with disputes over trade, technology, and Taiwan pushing the two countries further apart. In this environment, relying on China for critical goods feels riskier than ever, especially for industries like semiconductors and defense. Mexico, by contrast, is a U.S. ally with a stable, long-standing trade relationship. That doesn't mean Mexico is without risks. The country still faces challenges in fully realizing its potential. Its education system lags behind other industrialized nations, which has led to a skills gap in the workforce. And while Mexico's average manufacturing wages are low, they're higher than those in places like Vietnam or Bangladesh, which limits how much of China's manufacture in Mexico can realistically absorb. Still, the numbers tell a compelling story. In 2022, Mexico accounted for 14.5% of U.S. imports, up from just 11% a decade earlier. China's share, meanwhile, has fallen from 21.6% in 2017 to 16.5%. Mexico's manufacturing exports to the U.S. now exceed $400 billion annually, making it the second largest exporter to the U.S. after China. This isn't just a story about Mexico replacing China. It's about the reshaping of globalization itself. Mexico's rise as a nearshoring hub shows how the forces shaping globalization are changing. In the 1990s and 2000s, it was all about cost savings, finding the cheapest labor, no matter where it was. Today, companies are looking for something different. Supply chain resilience, proximity to major markets, and reduced geopolitical risk. Mexico, with its location and its trade ties to the U.S., is perfectly positioned to take advantage of this shift. But geography alone won't be enough. Overcoming challenges like crime and infrastructure shortcomings will be critical if Mexico wants to truly cement its role as a global manufacturing powerhouse. The question now is the future of globalization defined more by cost savings or by geopolitical and geographical realities? Mexico's role in global trade could hold